Old School Lane Casual Chats is brought to you by Old School Lane, producing various content from blogs, videos, and podcasts discussing about movies, TV shows, video games, and everything else in between since 2011. You can check out the podcast on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Radio Public, Overcast, Breaker, PokeKellz, and YouTube. We're associated with Channel Frederator, Manic Expression, The Comic Book Cast, and The Arun Mehta Show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Casual Chats. I am Patricia, and I have with me a very special guest. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name's Kellie, but you might know me on the internet as PokeKellz, a host of a former YouTube show, The Dex, and a general Pokemon lover, expert, enjoyer, all of those things.
Awesome. Awesome. The reason why we're doing this episode is because this coming week, as of the recording, is the 25th anniversary of Pokemon. And I thought that what better way to have with me than a Pokemon expert to look back on the franchise and give off her thoughts on how she first got introduced to the franchise and what made her dig so deep into the realm of Pokemon. So
excited.
Yeah. Why don't you tell everybody how you first got introduced to Pokemon?
Well, actually, the first exposure that I ever had to Pokemon was actually at my friend's house when I was, probably like 7 or 8 years old. I was right in the perfect sweet spot age for Pokemon. She brought out these cards from underneath her bed and she was like, look at these, you got to check these out. And I was like, I don't know what these are, but I really like this art. What is this? What is that? Like, what are all these adorable creatures? And, sure enough, she told me that they were Pokemon. So, being introduced to the cards first, I remember she gave me an Abra card, and it's the Abra that's sleeping. It's got its eyes closed. It's sitting up against the tree, and like one of the very first sets that came out in the US.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I got that card, I was like, oh, well, this is cool. I want more of these. And I started getting the cards. And then I think when I was 8 years old, my mom got me Pokemon. Actually, she got my siblings and I Pokemon Red to share on our Game Boy, which, I don't know if you've played an old Pokemon game. Well, I guess still today you can't really share save files, of course, in Pokemon. That's blasphemous. So very quickly, Pokemon became mine, and my siblings got to watch me play it, but I would not allow them to play it. So obviously, I became obsessed right away, just because I love the concept and the idea of going out and collecting creatures, learning what they do. I've always been a huge lover of animals. That's what my main career is working with animals. So it's just always really resonated with me, and that's kind of how I got started. And I've played every single Pokemon game ever since then.
Awesome. Now, would you say that your love of Pokemon enhanced your love of animals to eventually become a veterinarian?
I think it was kind of like a mutual growth, because I would always say when I was little that I wanted to be a whale trainer. And when I got a little bit older, I realized that I am really bad with cold water. And so I was like, I actually do not. And, training whales now is a little bit not cool. But when I was little, it was like, I was still really excited about it. But, I always knew that I wanted to work with animals, and I think loving animals got me into Pokemon. But the fact that the Pokemon series has always been about really respecting the creatures that you are, they're your partners, they're your friends, you go on this journey with them. And I think that kind of really reinforced my belief that animals are more than just more than just things that exist in the same world as us. They share this world with us, and they have so much to give to us. And I think Pokemon, being as smart as they are, I mean, in the anime, they're so sentient. They are sentient creatures. I would say they're kind of like between, in the Pokemon world, Pokemon are a step above animals. They're like a link between animals and humans.
Right.
And so I definitely think that had a lot to do with like the way that I ended up falling in love with working with animals and realizing how smart and how much personality that they can have. And yeah, I think Pokemon just, has always reinforced that thing inside me.
Yeah, I can understand your love of whales when you were a kid, because I remember there was like this huge whale phase around the mid to late 90s when Free Willy came out.
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, and so people were like, we need to save the whales and we need to make sure that they're free. And I think that, documentaries such as Blackfish pretty much just emphasize, yeah, we shouldn't put them in SeaWorld anymore. So, yeah. But I think that what's interesting you brought up was that, how people see the world of Pokemon in a much more positive light, because I think around the time in which it got really, really popular, I remember like next to Harry Potter, that Pokemon would be talked about as like, oh, these are like, demon monsters and they're affecting our children and stuff like that.
Yeah, I actually had a couple of friends that were not allowed to play any Pokemon, not allowed to watch it, not allowed to play it, look at it, any of that. And then of course, once Pokemon really started to blow up in elementary schools and things like that, they were very quickly banned because kids were trading the cards, they were playing the games, they were like, not doing their work because they were too excited about Pokemon. And it obviously created a backlash among adults that, don't, the adults are never going to understand the kid thing. And they're going to obviously think that it's like something that's like negative. But overall, I think in life, and the Pokemon company in general has always tried to make a positive relationship, like, Pokemon and people. I think that sometimes people fall into the easy trap of like, oh, it's just like dogfighting. But I think anyone who's actually played a Pokemon game knows that they really emphasize the like, no, this is a friendship between you and these wonderful creatures, and you guys get to travel and journey together. And yeah, you guys fight against other creatures, but like, nobody dies, they only faint, and you heal them up, and they like you and all that jazz. So I think that I think that the initial somewhat I don't know, the backlash that was by the older crowd that didn't understand that, I think that kind of quickly subsided. And of course, now it's one of the most well recognized franchises on the planet. So I definitely think that they did okay.
Okay is an understatement, considering how huge it is in Japan. It's
just a little indie studio.
Yeah. It's like the Wes Anderson of video game franchises. It's nothing. But no, it's actually interesting that you were talking about like, oh, in elementary schools that would be banned and stuff like that. I was lucky in which when I first got into the franchise, when it started like really popularizing in the late 90s, I was already in middle school. So we didn't have that much of a severe ban of Pokemon. I mean, we would still play it like before classes started or on our lunch breaks. And I even told this story many times whenever I'm talking about Pokemon. But one of the first field trips that the middle school we did, it was a small middle school, and our field trip was that we actually went to go see Pokemon the first movie in theaters, and we got like multiple versions of the cards, and we would like,
gosh,
I know it was
exciting.
It was incredibly exciting, and especially for the one kid who actually didn't know anything about Pokemon, and then he was just like sitting there watching the movie as like his first introduction.
Oh my gosh, what a cool thing. I remember going to see the movie as well. I still remember the theater that I saw it at. I still remember if I walked into that movie theater, I could tell you like which actual like screen that we went and saw it at. It's super fond memories. That's so cool. You guys got to go on a school trip to go do that. How cool is that?
Oh, it was really cool, especially because it was a small middle school. We didn't go into a lot of field trips, and I was living in New York at the time, and so the very few field trips that we did go to was like we would go to like a few museums, like maybe the Museum of Natural History or maybe a local museum, but that was one of the very, very few that we actually went outside of just doing it for education. We were just going there for fun. because it was like one of the biggest phenomenons that ever happened. And I remember just like truckload of kids was just over there watching. I don't know if they were there for a field trip or they were skipping school. I have no idea. But yeah, it was just a crazy experience. I'm sad to say that I never got to see the other two movies in theaters. I think the last time that I did go to see Pokemon in theaters, I think was, let's see, Pokemon I Choose You was the last one.
I missed that one in theaters, but I did see Victini, the black and white movies.
Oh, wow.
They came out with like 2 different versions of the movie.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And yeah, I think that's the last time I saw a Pokemon movie in theaters. But I mean, now I watch most of them on various streaming services. But
oh yeah, sure. Especially since Pokemon, you can actually it's so available to watch on like the official Pokemon app and various streaming sites. So yeah, it's very readily available.
Yeah,
and
it's super nice to have that access.
Oh yeah, very much so. And I think that another thing I remember, I think I even mentioned this also in the podcast, that when Pokemon the movie 2000 came out, a person who I befriended, I think it was the bus driver. That's who it was. The bus driver knew that I was a Pokemon fan, and he actually gave me the soundtrack. But
wow, how nice! That's
but
awesome.
Yeah, but because it's New York, it was actually a bootleg soundtrack. So yeah, I know, but the music still worked fine. It's just that the cover looked really awful. But yeah, it was actually pretty interesting, and I think that's the last thing that I saw regarding Pokemon right before I got back into it, with the announcement of X and Y, in which they showed off the new 3D sprite animation, and then they had like the Pokemon competitions being going all over the place, and then Pokemon Origins started coming out, and then I started getting back into it. The last thing that I remember was that I played through Gold and Silver, and then I saw Pokemon Advance, and then when they were starting Battle Frontier, I was pretty much done with it, because that was at the point in which I was going to high school, almost going to college. So I decided that, okay, I was done with the franchise, and pretty much everyone around me was pretty much done with the franchise as well.
I certainly took a break after a while. I didn't play Ruby and Sapphire until Diamond and Pearl had already come out, and I was like, well, oops, wow, I can't believe I missed a gen. So I like played Ruby and Sapphire real quick, and then went right into Diamond and Pearl. So yeah, I think everybody goes through that phase where they're like, I'm too cool for Pokemon, and then they're like, actually, you know what? Pokemon is for everybody, so I can still like Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly. I think that what really intrigued me about how people were just still into it is that it kind of resets every generation, where they have new protagonists, and they have a new world to explore, and new creatures to capture, and each one of them had their own distinct personality. And I think that's what kept new generations from coming in. It's not like they have to play the previous games in order for them to catch up with the newer games. And I think that's what's really genius about it. I think that some people do wish that the anime would play the same way, in which, like in the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise, in which they always switch up the protagonist, and it's always a new style of playing the cards. People thought, why can't Satoshi switch off, and then maybe we have Gold, or we have Ruby, or any of the other characters that feature in. But I think that because Satoshi, or Ash in the American version, I think he's too much of an iconic character to switch out at this point.
Right. Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. I really do. I think that the games have a very good formula going. They always bring in new Pokemon plus, old Pokemon. So returning players and new players can both have a really exciting experience of, being reunited with their favorites, but seeing all these new Pokemon. And though the anime really doesn't go down that path, it's been like very, pretty linear for all these years. Satoshi / Ash has just, gone from region to region. But I think more recently they have started doing, like you said, Pokemon Origins and things like that, where they are kind of focusing on other characters and other Pokemon stories, which I'm super excited about, because I think there's so much to be done with that world, and so much to be done with, just people in that world. I always like to see, what kind of jobs are in the Pokemon world, and what people do outside of, just being a Pokemon trainer and going through the gym circuit. Like that's one aspect of the world. But it's been really nice to see that world kind of open up with the mini series and the special anime like movies and things like that don't necessarily revolve around Ash and Pikachu.
Yeah, like the Pokemon Generations that's been going on YouTube.
Oh yeah, those are excellent. Those are super fun.
I don't know if you've caught up with the anime. I know you said you caught up with the games, but I don't know about the anime. But what would you say are like some of your favorite moments or characters or even Pokemon represented in the anime?
Sure. Well, I've been kind of off and on it for many years. There are certain regions that I watched a lot of, certain regions that I haven't watched all that much of. I definitely have not seen as much of the anime as I have been, entrenched in the games and the cards and things of that nature. But one series that I just absolutely fell in love with was Pokemon XY, and especially Pokemon XY and Z. I thought that it was so fun. It was so well done. I loved, I loved Ash's companions. I loved the Pokemon that he traveled with. Halucha is just hilarious.
Right.
I fell in love with Halucha because of the anime. I was not super interested in him in just the game, as is, but the one in the anime is just so funny. It's such a showboat and such a like a proud Pokemon, just a buzz with personality. So I really, really loved that. One of my favorite episodes of X, Y, and Z is when Bonnie makes friends with the Tyrantrum. It becomes a Tyrantrum, but because I love dinosaurs, and the idea of a kid making friends with dinosaurs is always exciting to me. But I think that series X, Y, and X, Y, and Z was really, really well made. And I also I also was really impressed with the Sun and Moon series because it was a huge left turn for the anime. They really changed up the modeling. They changed up the animation studio. They just changed up a lot of the tone of it. And I found that the jokes were a little bit more slapstick, and it was a lot more just kind of like freeform, whereas previous anime had been super, super structured. It was very, super linear, super structured. And I found that Sun and Moon was like a nice departure, and it was really kooky. And I thought that was really refreshing as well. So I recommend both of those series. I think I
hear so many people talk about those series, and yet I haven't had the chance to take a look into it. I do know that X and Y is praised. I think I remember like I think it was 5 years ago, or maybe it was 4, where I actually went to a convention when I was living in Florida, and the cast was over there who actually performed as the companions in Pokemon X and Y, and I got a picture with them. And I remember like there was like lines to get a hold of them and like ask them to do the voices or get pictures of them and talks and stuff like that. So yeah, I thought it was like really interesting. It's like I remember when I was slowly fading away from the franchise, where people were talking negatively about like, oh, this May and Max character are not as good as Brock and Misty. And then when Dawn started appearing, I mean, this was like after I was already done with the franchise. I've never seen Diamond and Pearl, so I've heard talks about like, oh, these Pokemon contests are not that interesting and stuff like that. But then when X and Y came along, that's when I heard people saying, oh man, now it's starting to get like really good again, and people are saying, did you watch the newest episode of this anime where this and this happened? And for some reason, like I said, this is how when the games of the trailers first came out, and then people were starting talking fondly about the animes, when I slowly started becoming more interested in it again. So I was actually curious about like what made people talk about that, and then that's why I found out about it. And then eventually with Sun and Moon, I remember when the pictures first came out, everybody just hated it. Like people
change.
Yeah, people. Yes, people fear change. And then people were like, no, this is actually really good. It's actually a refreshing change of pace. And then the one thing that I saw was one of the companions where she reunites with her mother after she's been dead for a long time with her on the island. And that scene, even though I don't know the full context of it, that scene legitimately made me cry. It was the first time in a long time that I cried in a Pokemon moment, in which that moment was just played off so beautifully. And I'm like, man,
some really good stuff.
I know, it's like, why haven't I gotten back into this? But then I have to remember, oh yeah, I'm a college student and I have to do homework and do a lot of other things and stuff.
Life happens.
Yeah, exactly, life. So yeah, I definitely need to sit down and rewatch everything again, even though that's going to take about over 1,000+ episodes. But I mean, I've done every iteration of Naruto at this point, and as well as the Dragon Ball franchise. I was like, 1,000 episodes, no big deal.
I know, yeah. Compared to some of those super long hundreds episodes long animes, like Pokemon is that, but you can watch it cash. It's good.
Yeah,
One thing
exactly.
though that is really that I do want to point out about like X and Y versus Sun and Moon, because you mentioned the contests. I was extremely impressed with the contests. They were so exciting, and probably my favorite part of the X and Y series of anime was that Jessie of Jessie and James Team Rocket. She competed in the competition circuit. She wasn't trying to do any crimes. She was just legitimately participating and competing in the contest, and she was really, really good at it. And so it was really nice to see this character that like is so often like used as like the butt of a joke. Like, they're always doomed to fail. It was like so cool to see her succeeding at something that she was really good at. And, when it came down to like, Grandmaster finals and stuff, I was really, really rooting for her. I was like, oh my gosh, she's really good at this. And so I don't know. I think they really did a great job with a lot of the characters in X, Y, and Z. And then in Sun and Moon, the one that made me cry in Sun and Moon was the Stoutland and Litten episode. And if you haven't seen that, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but oh my God, that's a tearjerker.
Oh, wow. Again, I really need to get back into this. I really need to like catch up with everything for sure, because as I mentioned earlier, it's like, people were talking about like, oh, there was this period in which like it started getting really complacent, and then it started to like really kick things up a bit. I guess it's kind of I guess it's to be expected, because I know a lot of franchises, they tend to stick to their regular formula, and then eventually they have that one game that really just sparked interest in people once again. You have your Mario Odysseys or Galaxy and Breath of the Wild and Metroid Primes and all those kind of games, in which like, they follow the formula, and then, one game comes out of left field, and then wow, it's like people are talking about it again. So
exactly, yeah. When you see something that is like an elevation of the form, and then it's really exciting to see the other aspects and angles of that form try to elevate with it. So yeah, I definitely think that happened when people got excited about X and Y and the 3D and everything. I think that was like another signal to those that were running the anime side of it, like, oh, it's time, like, people are going to be back into this. Let's bump up the stakes. Let's raise the quality. Let's make some really cool battles. Let's put some cool things in here. So yeah, it's really nice to see that, especially because Pokemon is so vast. There's so much of it to consume that it's really neat to see all those things kind of coming up together.
Yeah, and also with the movies as well, I've heard a lot of people saying they're mixed. I mean, I hadn't seen the movies until just about a few years ago. I did a podcast with my co-host where we talked about all of the Pokemon movies leading up into Pokemon I Choose You. So this was somebody who, like, I saw the first 3 movies, and then I saw a couple of movies here and there. I think the last one that I did see was maybe either Lucario, or possibly maybe even Destiny Deoxys. I don't remember, but I remember that was the last one until I just stopped, and then I started like getting myself back into it. And sure, some of them are like a bit mixed at points, but there's some that are actually pretty interesting with their concepts. I mean, I really like how the direction was able to go in, where it like delved into like deeper themes and, showing off the Pokemon more than just, oh, here's a legendary, we're going to tell the story about it. It's like there's more to it than that.
Exactly. Yeah. And I really did enjoy Lucario and the Mystery of Mew. That one was a fun one. I did like that one a lot.
And I also liked Zoroark's story was actually really cool too.
Yeah.
I thought that Hoopa was an interesting Pokemon as well.
I like the concept of Hoopa. I can like Hoopa opens up a bunch of like possibilities for me, like as far as origins of Pokemon and stuff. It's I think Hoopa is the key to everything. So
yeah, it's a genie essentially. Yeah, and then the whole Pokemon I Choose You, which that was when I did that podcast. That was like the newest movie that came out at the time, and so it was a very interesting depiction of like, hey, we're going to redo the story all over again, except we're going to make a few changes here and there, and it was an interesting movie, I would say. I mean, interesting direction that they decided to take into it, like expand the story of Ash going after Ho-Oh and the relationship between Ash and Pikachu. I thought it was really interesting. It stumbled in a few places, especially with the scene that everybody has been pretty much making fun of to death. But no, I thought it was pretty decent.
I think that's a good assessment. It's really strange when someone like retells a story, but there are so many differences and changes to it. It's like not a reboot. It's kind of like a reimagining of it. It's like it's an interesting thing that's like not like it's not a sequel. It's not exactly the same story. There's some similar elements, but there's a lot of really important, like really big changes. So yeah, it was a really weird way to take it, but overall, not a bad movie.
No, not at all.
Aside from, Pikachu talking in a weird way, I think that probably, well, to me, if I were to watch that like in Japanese, I probably wouldn't have even blinked at it twice.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think that it was just maybe a little bit jarring for some people to have this little creature that has up until now just been like Pika Pee to like suddenly have like a human voice, and you're like, wait a minute, where's this coming from?
Right.
But I think it was metaphorical. I don't think that was real.
Yeah, I'm sure that it was probably because that he was a little knocked out and he was just like imagining it happening. So I guess that's true.
My dog only barks, but I know what he's saying. So, and in my mind, he has a voice. So
of course. Yeah. So I'm actually curious about, how did you and Alex start the Dex?
Well, we are both very into Pokemon, obviously. And we just, I think just by nature of the types of people we both are really like research focused and oriented. Both of us really like to read. We really like to delve into like, I'm speaking for him as well, but like, I personally, I love to see, like, I love watching shows like how it's made or like what's, I love knowing why things are and what went into them. Love watching special features on like every single movie, all of that. So, just having this like knowledge and liking, and also really liking to talk about that knowledge and I really like the idea of showing people how much thought goes into things that are that we maybe wouldn't put too much to mind to, and so we, just by nature of us being really passionate and excited about talking about Pokemon, other people recognize that and we're like, hey, you know what, like you guys are, you already are pretty familiar with performance and things like that because we were both like have theater backgrounds, etc. And so a friend of ours was actually like, you know what, you should just like, it would be really cool if you guys just like talked about Pokemon. And we were like, well, what form could that take? And so we ended up deciding on like like a little spotlight on what if we talked about like one specific Pokemon. We told everybody how it was created or any interesting things about it, and then told people how to use it in the game. And our first couple of episodes that we recorded were very rough. They were really not, I don't want to say not interesting because like, I think that's being really harsh on myself, but they were cringy to watch. And so we kind of like refined the format. And then after we realized like what we wanted to do, and we decided to make it more of like an upbeat kind of like kids channel-esque energy, because it really improved the flow of it, and it really kind of made it a little bit more of like a special, fun, watchable, bite-sized thing. So that's kind of how it was created. And then luckily we had a couple of friends that had equipment and things like that, so we just kind of went from there. And then usually what would happen is that I would research the Pokemon, Alex and I would write the scripts, and then we would go to his office and record the episodes. And super, and it was super fun. I really enjoyed doing it. I'm now that it's been a few years since it's been on the on YouTube regularly, people always ask like, where is the show and things like that. And I still absolutely love the show, but as a 30-year-old woman, I do have a career that I have to continue to focus on, but that never has diminished my love of Pokemon. And I still enjoy looking up designs and everything about them to this day. I still like get way deep into that.
Oh, absolutely. And I always enjoyed you and Alex analyzing various Pokemon, everything from where the design came from to how to properly battle it, especially for those who were just getting into the battles. This is when I was first seeing like people taking Pokemon battles like legitimately seriously, as opposed to like, oh, you have this one friend and you decided to trade off or do battles after school or something. But no, people were like saying about the EVs and IVs and, all these specific moves that are catered to the Pokemon. This is a move that that you put in to kind of like offset your team. This is the item that you should be holding. So yeah, I thought it was actually really interesting. And yeah, I think
Thank you.
that.
I appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. So, what was your favorite one that you and Alex did?
Oh my gosh, that's such a hard question because I love so many of the episodes. I think that we had a lot of fun when we could sneak in some like weird, mysterious like lore stuff. I think probably one of my favorite episodes is when we did our Zoroark episode where we did like the episode and it was regular, but then we really kind of like broke the fourth wall and came up with this narrative that we were somehow like trapped in the computer, and that there were Pokemon world versions of us, but there were also real world versions of us. And it became like this really wild harebrained story, and it was nonsensical, but it was so much fun. And yeah, I think that was probably one of my favorite episodes to work on.
Yeah, that was an actually interesting episode for sure. It's like, what? Oh, wow, there's this conspiracy going on. What's going on here?
Yeah, and we built up to that like episodes and prior to that we would always reference some weird thing about how maybe we're trapped here, maybe we're not, like are we real people, are we not, sort of thing. And yeah, so it was also, we were doing the regular Pokemon thing that like if you just watched an episode you would not really notice it, but if you watch a lot of episodes you're like, what's going on here? Are they like, is there like some other subplot that's going on? And I think we really both like to kind of like play into that sort of thing, just because we we're improvisers at heart and we love games. So
yeah, absolutely.
So it's kind of fun to do that.
Oh yeah, for sure. So which Pokemon did you guys were working on right before you decided to go on your break?
We did our list. We kind of decided there. I think Primate was was the last one that came out before.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and that was since it was a week to week thing, we basically we took a lot of suggestions from people that we would always say at the end of the episode, like, leave which one you want us to do next time, and down in the comments. And I actually would keep a list. I would go down and I would scroll through, and I had this little it's like WordPad document that I had a bunch of names of Pokemon and just like tally marks next to them. And so really it was kind of week to week. So we would record on Wednesday, and then on like Thursday or Friday I would compile and see like which one was the most popular request. And then over the weekend I would do research and we would write the script, and then we would shoot on Wednesday again. So yeah, I don't like, as far as like lost episodes, there are not really a lot of lost episodes. There are a couple Pokemon that I started research on just like for fun that like never became episodes. But as far as like which ones were we planning on doing, there wasn't really a whole lot planned ahead. We did actually this in the past year do like a bonus episode on Alex's channel, Super Beer Bros. They have like a Patreon tier where someone can pay and like ask for whatever episode they want, and they asked for another episode of the Dex, and they requested specifically Donphan, which I was excited about because I absolutely love Donphan. It's one of my favorites. And so I was like, yes, we get to do one more episode, and it's on one of my favorites, one that we like didn't get to, and that was really exciting too.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, you can find that on Super Beard Bros if anyone hasn't seen that and is interested. More episode.
Yeah, nice. And I also do enjoy you and Amanda doing Super Stash Sisters.
Oh my gosh, I do have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, I know it was like an April Fool's thing that you and Amanda did, when Alex and Gerard were taking their breaks. But yeah, I always enjoy you guys doing like Yoshi's Island or Pokemon Snap and such.
Oh, that's so exciting. Oh my gosh. And new Pokemon Snap is about to come out in April. I am over the moon about that.
That should be really interesting.
I'm just so excited about it. And we just got a projector at my house and or apartment. It's not a house. Mm-hmm. And so we have this big projector that's up on the wall, and I can connect my Switch to it. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, not only am I going to get a new Pokemon Snap, one of my favorite games of all time, I get to play it up on a giant screen, and it's like they'll be all life size right there with me. I just am so excited.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you enjoy Pokemon Snap because it's actually the first and only one of Digino Gaming that you did.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, Pokemon Snap has always been, if if there's a favorite game that I have, it is Pokemon Snap. Like if someone's like, what is your favorite game of all time? Without question, it is Pokemon Snap. I played that game so much. I got it from Blockbuster originally, and then I begged for my own copy of it. I've played it like over and over and over again. I know every in and out. I basically have memorized all of the Pokemon's animations because I knew exactly when to get the best possible picture of them. And I just played the crap out of that game. Couldn't get enough of it, and I've been waiting for almost 20 years for a sequel to that, and I just could not believe that they actually went forward and did it, because I've been searching for something like that ever since, and now it's coming. So that's very, very exciting.
Oh, absolutely, it is very exciting, considering that I was one of those people who never got an N64. I had a PlayStation because, I was already in my teenage years, so this was like at the point in which, like, oh, I'm going to lean more toward like the cooler games. I mean, I was already into like the Crash Bandicoots and Spyros, and Metal Gear Solid and Tekken came out, and so I would see it from afar. I would see Pokemon Stadium and Pokemon Snap and all those things from afar. I never got to play them, but I just thought it was actually really interesting. It's like it's essentially an on-rail shooter, except that it's a camera and you get to take pictures.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I just thought it was interesting because around that time when the game came out, I was already in high school and I was doing photography class for the first time. This was like old school photography where I actually went into a dark room and I actually had to buy my own film and take pictures of everything. Cool. Yeah. I know a few students who are majoring in photography because I'm a communications major, and they do the digital stuff. I know that there's like one that does the black room, but you don't find that very often, which is really sad. But I just thought it was interesting. It's like, wow, this is a very nice, wholesome game. I mean, it's not violent. It's not, it's not tasteless or anything like that. It's just taking pictures, and I just thought that was actually really fascinating. And
yeah. I love the I love the grading mechanic. Like, for a really old N64 game, it was really neat to see, like, it can recognize if there's multiple of the same Pokemon in there. It can recognize if they're behind, or if they're facing away from you. It can recognize certain poses, and that triggers certain point values. I just thought that the whole thing was so well done, and I thought that was just I don't know, it just totally captured my imagination, and I really think it's one of the great N64 games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that also that the fact that, Pokemon tends to remake their games every so often with their generations, whether it be with like Pokemon, with Fire Red and Leaf Green, or Heart Gold and Soul Silver, Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, and, the games for the Switch, the Pokemon Pikachu and Eevee editions. And, people can be able to like get into these games without having to go back a generation, especially I know for trading. It's like, okay, so I have to get my Game Boy Advance and my DS and my 3DS and my Switch so I can get the Pokemon that I want. It's like, but yeah. But I think that it's actually really nice that a lot of these are very easy to uphold, to get not only the Pokemon that you want, but also the connectivity and the fact that people are able to connect with each other from all over the world and be able to talk about their favorites and such. So I just thought that the community was really good. And I remember distinctly that when Pokemon Go was announced, that's when everybody was getting together and walking outside and trying to catch the Pokemon.
Absolutely bonkers. We when Pokemon Go came out, I went with a few friends to the Santa Monica Pier, which was packed. It was wall to wall. People, I thought the pier was going to collapse. Honestly, there were so many people there that it was like the busiest day at Disneyland or something like that. There were so many people, and somebody would just like scream out, "There's a Charizard!" And then it would be like a stampede. It was unlike anything that I had ever seen. And just like for the couple weeks after that, just like walking around in my regular life and hearing people be like, "Oh, a Clefairy!" Like, it was the closest that I had ever felt that Pokemon was real. And that was such an exciting time. I still play it pretty often. I got really into it just at the end of this year because they were like, if you can get to level 40 by the end of this year, you get a special badge. And I was like, well, I have to get a special badge. And so I grinded through 2 levels and like millions of experience points. I played way too much actually,
Mhm.
but I made it because when the grind is you got to do the grind when the passion is there, you got to do it. So
Now, I can't wait for you to do an April Fool's Day video of the completionist where you complete every single badge of Pokemon Go.
oh my gosh, oh god, what a nightmare.
I know that would be a total nightmare, but I mean, if Gerard can be able to complete games that I don't even know how he's able to do, then sure. If you have the time and energy for it, then go for it. But I know that you're super busy with things. It means like I wouldn't want you to do it because I want you to have your sanity. So
I just think that I don't even know how, some of these badges are like I think they just added one that was like purify 1,000 shadow Pokemon. And I'm like, I think I'm at 50. Like, I
oh
don't,
no.
it's like, just, it's just, that's kind of out of my reach and that's okay. It's good to set boundaries in games.
Well, you need to, otherwise you'll drive yourself insane.
Exactly. Hence completionist insanity.
Right, there you go. I just want to wrap things up. So I think that, what about the now looking into like the 25th anniversary of Pokemon, seeing that of how successful it still is for a lot of people, and especially for like younger kids getting into the franchise for the first time, whether it be like through playing Pokemon Sword and Shield or watching the anime or watching the movies and such, like Detective Pikachu or the Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution or the new Pokemon trailer that I just saw with Coco, which is actually going to be pretty interesting. I want to know more about that. But yeah, I'm actually curious about like where you think you see the franchise coming in, and how do you think that it still stood as a legacy as opposed to like that fad from the 90s that, oh, it was just there for a bit and then it just kind of dissipated after a while, akin to a lot of things that try to cash in on the franchise's popularity.
Man, that's a great question. I think that something that the Pokemon company and the Pokemon, the design team behind Pokemon does well, that gives it the sticking power, is that they're always very reverent of the original. The original games. On Pokemon Go, they were doing like a Kanto flashback sort of thing. They always give the old Pokemon equal importance to the new Pokemon, and they really encourage being first of all, they really foster a sense of like, these are yours. I know that it's very important to the designers to feel like, you can bring your Pokemon up with you. I know that one of the main goals was for parents to pass their prized Pokemon down to their children. I know that was like a really high priority for the Pokemon team. And so I think that reverence and the fact that they do want to hold on to those old players as well as bring in those new players. I think that they really foster a feeling of like, this is still yours, and it's for not just you but for the people that come after you. And I think that there's like a really good give and take there. I know that a lot of people want Pokemon to get like more serious as a game franchise, but I think that they ride the line really, really well of being a good game for new players and old players at the same time. And though there are many things that could be improved, like in the competitive scene and things like that, and making that more accessible to more people, I think that above all, the Pokemon the Pokemon company has a vision, and it's a very strong vision, and they are always sticking to that vision. And whether whether or not that aligns with the what the fans want, there's a level of fan service that they do cater to, but they always stick to their vision, which is to create a space that celebrates Pokemon. It celebrates every player, from the oldest player to the youngest player, and I think that's what gives them the sticking power that they have.
Yeah, I definitely do agree. I think I remember an article many years ago where it was showing off a preview of a book called The Rise and Fall of Pokemon or something. And it was discussing about like how it really caught on with both Japanese and American kids, where, the Japanese kids, they've got introduced with like the games and the whole contest with, oh, if you, go specifically to this article of Core Comics and you can get Mew and the Pokemon cards and such. And then for the Americans, when they were just getting into anime with the likes of Dragon Ball Z or Sailor Moon, and then I think that there was like TV stations who were trying to like try to get the next fad because people were saying like, okay, we try to get in a hold of the popularity of Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles, but those are starting to die out, and we need to get the next big hit. And so they heard about Pokemon and saying like, hey, why don't we see if we can bring this in? And then the games came along, and then the anime came along, and it just lit like fire that nobody's ever seen before. And about how the franchise just continued with the merchandise and the anime and such. And then a lot of people say that the fad just kind of died away because tastes change, and people's interest started to fade away, and people were thinking that, okay, well, this is the end, but not knowing that it's just like what we were saying before, is that people just need a break, and then they just come back to it, whether it be with a new game or with a new anime or a new movie, or maybe maybe the competition or something like that. But yeah, it's like one of those. It's not just nostalgia that a lot of people go to these franchises. Is that it's just so varied. There's so many spin-offs of the games. It's not just the main core of the games. You can do catching the Pokemon. You can be a photographer. You can be a ranger. You could
you can breed them. You can do so much. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you can control a Pikachu even though it never works. There's a lot of things that you can do, and it's so varied, and I think that the fact that the marketing of the Pokemon is so varied as well, with like different plush dolls and toys and T-shirts and various things, and the fact that it just allures to kids, and then those kids would follow up with the next generation of kids. Is the fact that it's just so easy to get into is very apparent. It's not like, okay, with a Star Trek, for example, it's like you need to sure, you can like get into any of the series, whether it be with the original or Next Generation or Voyager or Deep Space Nine, but you want to watch into this one so you can know about how this led up to this and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, you don't need to do that with any Pokemon game. You can just pick it up sight unseen, and then if you want, you can play some of the past ones. But I agree. I think the nice thing about it is that the plots are their own little capsules, and they don't really, there are references to past events and things like that, but the timeline is pretty fluid, and like you don't need to have played one to be able to understand absolutely everything about the game that you pick up. So yeah, that I think that also gives the games lots of staying power.
Not only that, but I think the anime, I know a lot of people like tease the anime sometimes. It's like, oh, it's only there to sell the toys or whatever. But I think that I think I remember where people was talking about even long after they were done with Pokemon, they were talking about like their favorite moments, whether it be like Ash letting go of his Charizard or his Butterfree, or when Ash, Brock, and Misty separated for the first time, or when Ash finally won the Johto League against Gary or something like that. It's like there's still some moments that people actually gravitate to, whether it made them laugh or it actually made them cry. And you can't say that for like an anime or a property that tries to capture the same essence of Pokemon without trying to just do the bare minimum. It's like, okay, it feels similar, but it doesn't have the heart and it doesn't have the humor as what Pokemon gave us. So
yeah, and I think when you start with such a simple concept, which is just like there are creatures in this world, we want to know what they are and what they can do. Why don't you go out and make an encyclopedia like that? It's such a simple concept that you can you can use that and make such heartwarming and captivating stories off of that, because you don't need to explain a whole lot.
Yeah, and not to mention that for people who create content online, you don't have to be you don't have to play the games or watch the anime to like use that as your original content. You can play the card games or analyze them. You can cook recipes of it like Rosanna Ponzo does, or you can do the analytical stuff and looking at each Pokemon like you and Alex did, or anything. I mean, it's so vast. The world of it is so vast, and I think that because it lures people into the world, they want to be able to experience it for themselves. It's akin to the depths of maybe Middle Earth, or maybe to the the world of Harry Potter with Hogwarts and such, or Narnia, or
I understand that. Yes, exactly. Like the more established a world is and the more complete that it feels, just on its own, the better I think the better and easier it is for people to latch onto it and to jump onto it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the many reasons why it still stood the test of time as opposed to just fade away like a lot of other, childhood things that we grew up and then we just move on to something else. So I think that with 25 years, it's still going strong with like the new movies that are coming out and Sword and Shield, even though I know a lot of people have their issues with Sword and Shield because, released the National Dex, whatever. And I think that with, I know. Let's not get into that. But anyway, so, and the fact that there's like talks about like, oh, Detective Pikachu did well, so we're going to do another movie. And well, we don't know what that's going to be. But yeah, I mean, the fact that people are still wanting to delve more into the franchise, even long after it's been premiered, it's we can see that it's not going to go away anytime soon.
Yeah, that's very exciting. And I wish them another at least 25 years because I'll be playing the whole time until my fingers fall off.
There you go. All right. That should be it for this episode. So, Kellie, thank you so much for coming on by. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. It was so much fun. I appreciate you having me.
So, yeah, why don't you tell people where they can find you, plug and promote your stuff?
All right. Well, you can find me at on Twitter at PokeKellz, PokeKellz. That's generally where I'm most active. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/the National Dex. You can still the battle strategies are not quite up to date. They are from previous generations, and the battle system has been updated since then. But the design and the humor is still there. So feel free to watch that at your leisure. And I also have an extensive Pokemon collection and love talking about Pokemon merchandise and origins and things like that. So I'm always happy to do a deep talk on Pokemon. So yeah, bring it on.
There you go. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Let us know in the comments below about your first introduction with Pokemon. Let us know about how you first got introduced to Alex and Kellz's content with the National Dex or with Super Beard Bros or the Completionists or any of the sort. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for listening. Hope to see you around soon and take care.
Bye.